Warm welcome, official welcome to today's Soul Call on July 1st. So thrilled that you're all here. And before we dive into the heart of today's call, just want to give you a quick idea of what you can expect. And it's all about like being visible and sometimes our fear of showing parts of ourselves. And I'll share a bit more about that. Then I'll open up for questions and answers so I can help you tune in to see like where are you holding back or what parts of you are you maybe afraid to show with the world or certain parts of the world, and how that might have impacted you from a soul level. And then I'd also like to take some time to look at one of the mistakes I often see people make when it comes to looking at your intuition. And that should bring us to the top of the hour. So I think we have a full hour ahead of us. And if you know me, know I like to start with grounding because we're often very present in our head. And then from there, we'll dive into the rest of the call. So I invite you to place both your feet firmly on the floor, allowing yourself to become fully present. Giving yourself the gift of this moment of self-care time. And feel the weight of your feet resting on the floor. If you want, you can place a hand on your lower belly to deepen your breathing. And then with every exhale, send your energy, your awareness to your feet and to the earth beneath you. And then focus on your head and allow any excess energy in your head to slowly trickle down and spread itself evenly throughout the rest of your physical body. And then focus back on your feet. And imagine roots are growing downwards, and just as if you were a tree. And imagine, feel, or just know that these roots are growing downwards into the earth, as well as sideways. And feel how your legs are getting a little heavier. How you become more aware of your physical body. Relax your shoulders. And then in a moment, we're going to take a few deep breaths in together to fully align our energy fields and to ensure that we're present here in this moment with all of our energy, attention, and focus. Take a deep breath in and let it out. Breathe in and release. Final deep breath in together and let it out. I'm setting the intention that only that energy and information can come through that is in your highest good, that will help you take the best next step on your path, supports you in releasing what no longer serves you, and allows you to open up and let in that which is in your highest good to receive right now. And so it is. Focus your awareness back on your feet. Feel how they're resting on the floor. Bring all of your energy and awareness back here into this moment, this dimension, and into this call. Wiggle your toes and your fingers. And whenever you're ready, you can open up your eyes. Welcome back, and welcome Manuel, Ryder, Amber, for joining us. And I hope you were able to join us as we were doing a little grounding activation to become more present in our physical body. And I'd like to share a little more about our tendency to not allow all of ourselves to become visible. And this is something that I know intimately myself, because it's something that I've struggled with for years. When I learned about my intuitive abilities, I made a conscious decision to come out of the closet, so to speak, and share it with friends and family, which was really scary because up until then, I was this really rational girl who was working corporate marketing, and it just didn't really fit with the picture I had of myself, and certainly not with the picture other people had of me. So that's why I really felt like I was coming out of the closet. And so that was one of my first big steps in allowing parts of myself to be seen that I was still hesitant to show, like with the whole world. But this was like the first step, first circle that I felt safe sharing it with. And then over the years, there were more steps in sharing it with bigger and larger groups. And then I felt like there was this new layer added when I found out that I was the spokeswoman for the Carriers of Light. I felt like, and that gives me chills when I say it, I felt like that was another addition to like my being spiritual that I just wasn't certain how people would respond to. And when I did, it turned out most people were excited and interested and intrigued. But there were also some people who didn't understand, or who didn't resonate with it, or just didn't like that I was doing that because they thought it was not something that fit in their way of viewing the world. Let's put it at that. So there was some pushback as well, and I've had to learn to deal with that. So this is, for me personally, and this is really a short summary of what was a much more complex process, and it wasn't as easy as it may sound when I summarize it like this. But I know we all have parts of ourselves that really make us unique, that really make us who we are, and who I believe, what I believe are parts of our identity that make us special, that make us uniquely us. And usually those are the parts that aren't so generic or are just a little different than the people around us. And that's why we often fear to show part of that, especially to larger groups. And when we don't allow that part of ourselves to be seen, we're literally stopping part of the flow. It's like we're cramping down, we're like confining the energy so it doesn't flow freely. And the downside is when the energy doesn't flow freely in some part, it slows down like all of the overall energy, if that makes sense. So even though you might feel like you're playing it safe and that's like the only way to move forward, you really, it might feel safe, but it's only like a delay of the inevitable, I think. So the more you're able to become aware of what it is that you're not sharing, because sometimes it's so ingrained that you're not even consciously aware that you're not sharing with the world that you're really good at painting, or that you have this ability to just know when something is resonating or not, or that you really love dancing, but you don't feel that with the body that you have, that's a good fit, or whatever it is. And I think you can probably, if you're really honest, at least come up with one example for yourself that maybe you share it with some people, but that you're just really hesitant and perhaps even fearful that if the whole wide world would know that part of you, that's not going to be a good idea. Does that make sense? Yeah, and that gives me chills. And I think it's so important that we talk about this because it's the first step is really acknowledging that they're just parts of you that you're not sharing with everyone for whatever reason. And maybe you had a bad experience in the past, so it feels like you shouldn't. Maybe you just have this bias on what you think it means, that you have this ability or desire. And I think it really is time, as the raising vibration continues for the entire planet and for each of us personally. I think it's just everything's coming into the light. Sometimes they say like we're moving into the age where there's no more room for lies. That gives me chills. And we see this in the outer world, right? So many things are coming to the surface, that we never knew about, that we're like, oh, okay, this was like buried somewhere. And it gives me chills all over. And I feel on a personal level, the same thing is taking place, where we're just really invited to step up. And even if it's just with one person, you don't have to like scream it from the rooftops as your first step, but just get clear on like, okay, there's this element of me that I've not fully shared with the world, or that I've been even not being able to really embrace and accept as part of myself. So I'd love to know, like, does that bring up any questions? Does it resonate? You can just raise your hand. Sanne?
Yeah, it's very funny that this topic is now the topic of this call, as and you know, and Tracy knows, like recently I had some insights about parts that I've been that I tucked away. And well, it's at least like good that you at least that I noticed like where was this all coming from, and what was it that I was afraid of showing, or what was not accepted by the outer world. So that's a nice alignment. I still have the feeling it's a very lonely journey. Like now, I think we're making the final sprint with I Like Local. So September will be the big launch, and that will make clear if it's going to take off or not.
Mm-hmm.
And that's I'm going up and down with her, like fear, although it's shifting. So before I was afraid of losing the money and seeing the bank account dropping. That fear is now gone.
Good.
But yeah, it's still like there are times that you feel more stressed about it, and other times you can relax a bit more. But yeah, now it still feels a little bit like a lonely journey you have to go through. Yeah.
And that makes a lot of sense. And thank you for bringing that up, because that's definitely an element of how it can feel like you're the only one going through a certain experience, or that you're the only one moving forward. And sometimes it is lonely.
Mm.
I mean, I can sugarcoat it, but I mean, sometimes it's just lonely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And or I should say, it feels lonely is maybe the more correct way, because I know there's other people going through similar processes, but when you're there in your own life, in your own focus, I know all about how it feel really lonely. And then it's really important, when you feel that loneliness, to allow yourself to like reach out to others and share, like you're doing here so beautifully.
Mm.
Because sometimes the road is not the easy road. It's usually not that easy road. And you're one of the brave ones, just moving forward and saying like, this is where I'm going. And there are travel companions, but not for each step of the way.
Yeah.
So do you have a specific question or anything else? And I saw Amber raise her hand too, but
Yeah, no, I don't have a particular question, but if there is anything that this can shed light on, is there still anything that am I on the right path, and is the part that I'm now opening up the one that I was hiding, or is there still something I'm not like showcasing, or
Yeah. Yes. So I'm going to come back to that. I just want to see if Amber's question was like relating to the first part of the thing, or anyone else, and then we'll start the personal Q&A. Amber, do you still have your question? I see you put your hand down, but you're warmly welcome.
It
Hi.
wasn't so much a question. It was more that I was in agreement that I do feel terribly lonely and I don't fit in. That's all I wanted to say. And you can mute me now.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing. I'm glad to hear that that resonates. Thank you. Tracy?
What was your question again?
So about the first part I shared about being visible and how that can be difficult, and how that stops the flow, if that resonates, or if there were any specific questions about that.
It does resonate a lot for me, and I find myself having trouble sifting right now between various ways of sort of understanding that. And when I did that kind of exercise that you sent out in the email about looking at what we're holding back or what we're afraid of showing, mostly I go to bad things inside of myself that I'm afraid of other people seeing or weakness. So it's very hard for me to shift into the positive. It's sort of like, what are the gifts or strengths or abilities that I'm sort of not even accessing? So anyways, just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, and thank you, because that's definitely part of it. It's not only the our talents that we're hiding, but it's also all the things that we think are bad for whatever reason, or that society thinks are bad. Because I mean, sometimes something has just a label, and allowing ourselves to move to a place where it just is. And yes, there are parts of us. I mean, I think I can speak for everyone when we say, like, there's things that we've done that we may not be proud of, that we might do differently in hindsight. But I also believe that when we did do those things, 99 out of 100 times, we did it with the best intention at heart. And based on and it gives me chills, based on the information we had available at that moment. And I think it's very, very rare that we did something to harm someone. Even though it might have hurt someone, it's rarely the intention. And I think that we forget that. With hindsight, we only see what we did wrong and how it like hurt someone or hurt ourselves or somehow went awry. But I think we're so harsh on ourselves that we forget that when our younger self was making that decision, they were just doing the best they could with what they had available at that moment in time.
Yep.
And I think part of realizing that and softening some of the harsh judgment we can have on ourselves will help us return some of the flow and return some of the like what we've put in the dark and what we've tried to separate from ourselves, like trying to pretend like this bad part of me isn't really part of me, and then we keep it kind of separate, while the invitation really is to embrace all of it, good or bad, and then move forward with it.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Anything else about this first part? You can wave or raise your hand officially, whichever works. Good to see you, Ryder. Glad you put on your video. Hi. Okay, so let me tune in for Sanna's question first, and you might have a question for yourself, or it might pop up as we go along. So I'm just going to ask you to ask it one more time so I can zero in on the energy, Sanna.
Well, I have to ask it one more time.
Yes, please. You can make it a short version, just so I can connect with the energy.
Oh yeah, if there's anything that I'm still hiding or that I'm not opening up the part that I should open up.
Yeah. I think yes. And that's probably why you felt inclined to ask the question. I do feel that that you're still holding back in some areas and some elements of your life. I still feel also that like in your energy, you're not always everywhere allowing 100% of your energy to be present. It's like I have a sense that there's this underlying fear that you'll be too much, that you'll be too present or too enthusiastic or too excited when you bring all of you to the table. So I think you've learned over the years to just tone yourself down a little, because sometimes people thought it was a bit much. And that made you conclude that you were like too much if you were fully present. Does that resonate so far?
I don't really recognize it, and only regarding the part that the creativity part that wasn't always turning out well, you know.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing that I then maybe can imagine. But otherwise, I don't really, at least not like conscious that
No.
I've had that there's another part that I'm not really showing.
So it's definitely, I feel like it's so ingrained that it's not a conscious decision. You're probably so used to this being you that you're not realizing that this is not 100% of the energy and the power that you do have available. And I'd say it's very normal and very natural. It's something that I've had to deal with myself, because I was often told that I was just too much, right? Just a little less, Iris, just a little less. So I got to the point where I didn't even know like what the difference was between like what I thought was normal me and the full present Iris. And I have a sense that something similar is happening for you. Like over time, you just learned to adjust, and it's usually very subtle. There's these subtle cues where people just give you a look and you think like, oh, okay, that was not a good idea. And and it gives me chills. It's usually not very verbal. It might be on one or two occasions, but usually it's like all these like body language clues that you then interpret and internalize and then adjust accordingly. And what you said about like toning down some of your creativity is life force energy. It's the same thing. It's literally the same thing. So if you're not allowing all of your and creativity to flow, you're not allowing all of your energy to flow either. So let's see if the carriers have anything to add. And I wouldn't be surprised if this answer isn't just for Sanne, but for all of us. Dear ones, gathered here today, as you are collectively showing up to embrace more of who you are, to allow more of your energy to come to the forefront, and to allow more of who you truly are come into being. We salute you and we greet you. We are grateful for your willingness to learn and to open up, for your ability to grow and expand, and for your ever increasing desire to allow yourself to become more fully present, more fully available, and more fully aligned with who you truly are. As you are learning to navigate the currents of your life, and as you become more intimately acquainted with who you truly are, when you are looking at the different aspects that make up the true you, that make up your beliefs that make up your experience, that make up who you are being here on this planet in this lifetime. The more you are allowing yourself to get clear on all those different aspects, the more you are allowing yourself to bring your true energy to the forefront. And the more you are allowing yourself to allow that energy to flow through you. As you ask which aspects of yourself you have not fully been allowing, we invite you to turn inward, and breathe in deeply, to turn inward and see those parts of you that you have been hiding, that you have been fearful of others finding out that that is part of who you are, of who you have been, and of what you have experienced. You each carry within you a fear that you will be found out for some of the things that you thought or said or have done. Each of you have certain elements in your experience that you are afraid to share, that you are afraid to bring to the forefront. And in doing so, you shut down part of that energy and you cut off that element of your being to be connected to your whole self. As you compartmentalize the parts of you that you do and do not accept, that you do or do not want to bring forward with you into the rest of your experience, you are slowing down some of the expansion. You're slowing down some of the flow and some of the ability that you have to create and to manifest. The more you're willing to open up, the more you're willing to look into yourself and face that which you have been ignoring, face that which you have been hesitant to even acknowledge to yourself, that you are simply not proud of or happy with. Whether it's a part of your physical body, whether it's an event that you experienced, whether it's a thought that you have regularly, or whether it's simply something that is part of who you are. Each part of you that you discard, that you neglect, that you shut down, that you ignore, is a slowing down of your vibration and a slowing down of your energy. None of you are yet fully available to accept and embrace each part of who you are, but you are closer and closer to embracing more of that which you are. With each step that you take, with each question that you ask, with each opportunity that you embrace to open up and to expand and to look inward, you increase your ability to connect to the flow, and you increase your ability to embrace these elements of you that you have been keeping in the dark. We invite you to become aware of at least one element that you have been ignoring or been hesitant to show with the world. Perhaps a part of you that you're not proud of or are not fully satisfied with. We ask you to focus your attention on one of those elements and imagine in your mind's eye that you open this up to the light, as if you're opening a door or a window into yourself, and allow the sun to shine in. Allow the sun to shine into this element or this part of you, this part of who you are that you have difficulty embracing, and allow the sun to warm up this element, to bring it up to speed, to bring it back to life, to no longer cut it off from the life force energy that you've been withholding, to slowly but surely revive this part of you and let it become connected to you. Let it become part of your energy. Let it become part of your system. Let it become part of who you are. Allow yourself to take this in. Allow yourself to take this in the energy. And whichever emotions come to the surface, allow those to come to the surface as well. Trust that you'll know when the time is ripe for you to speak and show this to the world. Know that for now, the most important step is for you to embrace this within yourself, within the comfort of your own being, allowing this to become reconnected and part of the whole, so the whole can become more whole. Know that you can return to this exercise as often as you like and re-embrace several elements of yourself. Some might be specific, some you might be able to point at, some might be simply a knowing that you're accepting and embracing a part of you that has been so repressed you don't even recognize it as yours. Simply allow this process to unfold. Allow yourself to receive the support and trust that you'll be guided on your path. And so it is. Bring all of your awareness, your energy back here, into this moment, into this dimension, into this call. Feel the weight of your feet resting on the floor. Wiggle your toes, your fingers. And whenever you're ready, you can open up your eyes. Did that resonate, Sana?
Yes, it's again like a message that we need to do inner work. It's again not a quick fix, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, just looking inward and seeing and then trusting that it will show up.
And were you able to get clarity on a specific element as we were going through this healing?
Yeah, a little bit. When they were saying about maybe there are parts of you that you still don't want people to know. It's maybe that my has some people are very brilliant with figures and immediately know exactly the numbers, and I'm never have been that interested in exactly knowing the numbers. So for example, I had to pitch a few days back and the thing I was afraid of happens. So they started digging under numbers and I thought, oh my goodness, right, okay. And that's maybe a bit my fear, that I'm not that person that knows exactly. I'm more the visionary. I'm not the person who knows exactly all the details. And oh yeah, so maybe it's that part as well that I rather don't show, that I'm maybe not that good at that particular topic.
Yeah, and it gives me chills. And I know you spoke about that before. And I think it's just an idea that comes to mind. What you might do next time if that happens, you might literally say what you just said. I'm more of a visionary. I'm not, I know numbers are important, but it's just not my thing. So give me a moment and I'll look it up or whatever. So don't pretend that you,
Yeah.
right? Because I mean, that's your strength. You are the visionary, and they're interested in the numbers probably because they were the number people, right? So that's what they want to know. But I think there's no harm in saying like, you know, this is my business. I have a clear vision of where we're going. It's big and it's bold. I know we need the numbers. They're there and we looked at it and they work. They're solid, but they're just not my thing. So just give me a moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's nothing wrong with that. I
Yeah.
think it might even like help the conversation when you're just honest about that,
Yeah.
rather than pretend that,
Mm.
yeah, of course you got the numbers. Here we go.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're so welcome. Anyone else, anything you want to share from what we just did? Or if you have any other question that you'd like me to look at. Karen, yes?
Yeah, I can share briefly that I came today because even though I spent a lot of time working on exactly what part of my work I want to be doing, I'm still not very enthusiastic, motivated, or doing it. Like you, I come from a corporate background quite some time ago, have moved into the nonprofit sector, and now do a lot with drawing and creative work in terms of infographics and such. And so what I thought about is the part I'm still not letting go of is the idea that the creative work isn't as valuable as the strategy work or the mind work. You're definitely growing up. Art was that you never make any money doing that. It's not really the issue. But then even within the art, my style tends to be more cartoon-like, more playful. I like to feature animals. And, I've gotten some feedback around, well, that's too silly, or that's not, that's not serious enough for my, for this kind of audience. But I work in the animal protection field primarily, and my people love animals. So I feel like a part that I'm holding back is this whole more kind of playful, kind of silly cartoons, animals, because I'm like, well, it isn't good enough. And in fact, I think it's more than good enough for the audience I serve. So thank you.
You're welcome. And I'd say, I feel like, because I can feel your excitement when you're talking about the cartoons with the animals, and it gives me chills. I think actually that's your unique ability. So a word, like a phrase that comes to mind is, if you have to tone down your magic, you're working the wrong crowd. And I think that's really,
I love that.
Yeah. I'm glad it resonates, because I feel it and it gives me chills all over. That's really applicable to you. So I think those are brilliant, and the more animals, the better, and especially given the field that you're working in. So I'd say try going all out with the animals, or with the silliness, or with the playfulness, because I have a sense that's exactly what's needed to bring a certain message across that you can only bring across because of the powerful graphics that you are using with it.
Thank you. And,
Yeah.
I wrote that quote. I love that. If you have to tone down your magic, you're working the wrong crowd. I wrote that down.
Okay, good. Glad it resonates. Thank you for sharing. Anything else I can support you with, Karen?
Not right now. I'm good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Any questions? Anything you want to add or share? Tracy.
So I feel a little bit like Sana, that I am not exactly sure what it is that I may be holding back on accepting or sort of allowing to flow. And so I'd be interested if they could help me sort of narrow that somewhat. Yeah.
So as we were going through the exercise, were you able to sense something in you? You may not be able to pinpoint it, but that you have a feeling like when you're looking inwards that there were parts of you that were like in the dark?
The thing that popped up was, so this is sort of initially seems like, on the face of it, seems like a sort of weakness, but it's something about the part of me that protests, that wants to say no or disagree or something. And that and the negative cast I put on that is, I see where I can sort of get argumentative, or get angry about things, push away. But I think I'm starting to wonder a little bit, is there something about a protest function that's actually really important, really valuable?
I'd say yes.
Right.
Oh no, but because literally what comes to mind is like, and this is taking it to the extreme, but like protesters, right? People protest because they believe that things can be better, and that they have a certain view or idea of how the world could be a better place if we would change this or that. And they're so convinced about that they're willing to go into the street and protest. And I have a sense that, like, somewhere along the way, your ability to recognize something that was like worth protesting got skewed somehow, and you then maybe got some pushback and then concluded like you shouldn't be saying no, or you should be more agreeable and da 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 da. And that's how the whole, what I think in essence is a strength. But a strength is only a strength when it's balanced, right? So when you feel you're getting really argumentative, it's probably out of balance. And then it's good to look at, like, why do you feel so argumentative about it? And it might be because something was triggered. And then it's good to bring it back to proportion. But I feel like the innate ability of the protester is beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. Yeah.
Can you sense it?
Yes, I feel like for me, protest plays out more in sort of smaller scale things that have to do with, sometimes one is sort of advocating for myself or recognizing that something is going on that's not right.
Yeah.
Sort of, how do I sort of speak up for the truth?
Exactly.
And so it's not so much about the scale of public protest or.
No. That was just to give the example of how it could be but I know it's, I mean, it's rarely at that scale. It's usually just like within our own atmosphere. Yeah. And then it's, like you said, it's advocating for the truth, what you see as right or wrong, or right or wrong for you.
Exactly. Yeah. And that I very much sense. That
Mm-hmm.
feels like a really valuable personal power. Yeah.
And that has to do, and the word came out when you started talking at the beginning, is it has to do with setting healthy boundaries. Because when you're not able to recognize what is or is not aligned, how could you ever set a personal boundary that is fitting? And as you know, I'm a firm believer of healthy personal boundaries, because that will help you to function, and that will help prevent the part where you are so out of whack or out of balance that your strength becomes a weakness because it's just overexerted.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Mark.
Yeah. What I was thinking, what was the time that I was in complete flow lately, and do I still recognize those moments? And in fact, it was yesterday evening when I played music with my friends for a very long time ago, because of the COVID message, the restrictions, we couldn't make music and sing together. And last night I was sitting behind the piano and making jokes, having fun with each other, have a good laugh, and play some beautiful music. And it was half an hour, but I was so happy, and it was so fantastic to be together. But I also recognize that's a part of me that I'm not so. It's a part of me that I'm not talking about. Mm-hmm. That is something I do, and I completely find my joy in that. And well, when you spoke to Sanne, that moment arose, this flow, this feeling. Why don't I use this feeling to feed me in my other parts of my life and in my work? And because my work doesn't always give me the energy that I expect it to be in it.
Mhm.
And it's not that my work is that I should do something else. And maybe it resonates also in a few weeks back when we were at the Carriers of Light, and you said, bring some more joy in. It's also good to have fun with each other. It's all not that serious, or yeah.
Yeah.
So it made me cry a bit. Like, okay, wow. So thank you for that. There's also always in these meetings there's something happening. So
Mhm.
it's great. Thank you.
You're so welcome. And thank you for sharing. And so glad you got that insight of bringing more of your musicality into other parts of your life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not only the making of the music, it's the fun part
Yeah.
of it. Yeah.
The being allowed to be to enjoy.
Yeah. Part of my talent is that I always see something funny in stuff. And when I play music, it's always laughing. It's always the humor behind it. And yeah, why don't I do that more in my work? So much more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to give you time to think of one or two more questions, but I just want to make sure that I share with you what I promised about one of the mistakes I often see people make when it comes to listening to their intuition. I often see people when they listen to their intuition, they're like, just, oh, this is it. And then, okay, they go. And what I've learned over the years, or what I really learned myself do over the years, is to really have 3 steps that you go through to make sure that what it is that you're getting is absolutely right. And the first step is you want to set the stage for your intuition. So you want to make sure that you're in the right energy, that everything is like ready for you to start tuning in. And in the beginning, that costs a little time, and there's some things that you can do for that. Right. Like for me, it's become so ingrained, it's become really quick, and you wouldn't be surprised that grounding is an important element of setting the stage. And then when you do tune in, so that's like the main event, but we usually make that the one event, you're tuning in, and there's different ways that you can do that, right? So depending on your preference and depending on the situation and the topic, there's just different ways that you can tune in and get to an answer. And usually people then stop. And I think it's really important to make sure that you take step 3, which is that you validate the answer, because so often I see people mistake fear for guidance. And one of the things I think I see most is that people are like, okay, so should I do this or should I not do this? And they feel a contraction in their stomach, and they're like, ooh, no, it doesn't feel right. It must be a no. And 9 out of 10 times the contraction is a fear gets activated, because whatever it is that you're thinking about perhaps doing is usually stepping out of your comfort zone. Because if it wasn't a big decision, you weren't making the whole effort of like trying to ask your intuition, like, is this right or not? So usually when you're ready to step out of your comfort zone, your ego mind's like, oh shit, she or he's going to do this thing, but we don't know what's out there because this is uncharted territory. Danger, like danger flags go up, and your mind, it's one of its main purpose is to keep you safe. So in order to keep you safe, it needs to keep you in surroundings that are familiar and where they just know every nook and cranny. So it's giving off the signal of, ooh, you're approaching the comfort zone, please don't step out. And then you interpret that as, something feels off, my intuition must be telling me it's not a good idea. And you never spoke to your intuition. You were just channeling your fear, and then you went with that. So I just wanted to give that as an important example of what I see time and again. I mean, I've done it. It's taken me time to learn to distinguish the difference between, like, when is it my fear that's trying to keep me stuck or small or wherever I am, and when is it really my intuition that's just guiding me and telling me maybe stop or pause or halt. So I'm really excited. It's been years that I've hosted this program for whatever reason. I don't know, but I was reminded I think in the last gathering with the Carriers of Light, that I actually have this program about tuning into your intuition. And I decided to bring it back. I'm re-recording all the training calls, and it's starting next week. So if being able to reliably tune into your intuition and learn how to trust it is something that resonates, then you're warmly welcome. We start on Monday. You can listen to the calls in your own time. And at the end, there's a Q&A call that you can use to ask any questions that you have. Of course, you can ask any questions on the forum as well. And I'll include the link in the email, or you can find it on my website if it's something that speaks to you. So anyway, I'm very, as you can see, I'm very excited. And I think it's such an important tool. Our intuition is just like our North Star that can guide us on our path and on our journey. And it's really important that you're able to reliably tap into it. So I hope you took something away from that. And the next time you feel like you are trying to figure out an answer and you feel this contraction in your belly, that you pause and make sure that it's not your fear that you're listening to. All right. Any questions either about what I shared around intuition or anything else that you'd like me to tune in for? Amber.
Thank you. My issue is upsetting people by pushing beyond their boundaries. I think that might be because through childhood and my upbringing, I've been exposed in everything. So I do have boundaries, but they're semi-permeable. But I really do upset people, and I generally get the thing that's most upsetting for them. So that might be their, sounds awful, but their figure or something, or their, or the thing that's most important, like their child.
Just for me to get clear, so you're saying that when you set your boundary, you push other people's buttons?
Yes, but I don't really have a boundary. I'm quite unstable there, but I really do, and it's causing them to not want to talk to me.
So you feel that when you do set a boundary, you don't like really have the room or the space to do so? Because you're afraid of what might happen?
Yeah, I feel very exposed in myself constantly, because my boundaries have been broken all the time. So I'm not, I would say I'm not stable, but with other people, I just go beyond. I really upset them. I don't mean to, but I really do.
So what I would recommend is for you to really get into grounding, and there's on Insight Timer, I'll include it in the recording, one of my audios, and it's for free. You can just listen to it. It allows you to really ground. I think the more you're grounded, the more you're able to sense your boundaries, and the more you're able to really connect earlier in with like when you are going past your boundaries. Because I have a sense that because you're so like easy with your boundaries, that by the time that you need to set one, it's become so urgent that the only way to set it is with like a lot of force. And when you're already like overstimulated or too tired to like elegantly set a boundary, and I have a sense that that's one of the reasons why it might come across the way that it does. Does that resonate so far?
Yes. Thank you.
And then I have a feeling that it's only aggravated because of your past experience with how boundaries were perceived, and then you carry within you a seed of that fear, which like then only attracts the thing that you're trying to avoid, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So I feel like this is a big topic, something that's really a large part of your experience, and I wish we could get to the bottom of all of it in this call. I'm afraid that's like too much, but what I could really recommend you is to start by grounding, and then also make sure that you daily cleanse your energy field so that you don't carry too much of other people's energy and emotions with you, because I have a sense that's one of the things that's just like weighing you down and costing you a lot of energy.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, does that help?
That really does. Yes.
Good.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. Thank you for
Please
asking.
Please mute me.
All right. Are there any last quick questions, Tracy?
So I'm just curious if there's anything you could share about what are the signs that you found to distinguish between a fear reaction in yourself and your intuition? Like somehow you found how to recognize the difference.
Yeah. So I'll give you like a quick example, because there's like a whole thing. But for the first thing you want to do is check, are you grounded?
Yep.
If you're not grounded, you can trust it's your fear.
Yeah.
And then the second thing that you can do is to check in, like, is whatever it is that you're checking into something that you are attached to? Bye, Mark. Do you want the answer to be one or the other, right? So if you're attached to what the answer is, then chances are just really high that that's not your intuition, but it's just your fear speaking to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And there's more, but that's just
Okay.
to get you started. Those are two big ones. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So welcome. All right. Well, that brings us to the conclusion of our call. Thank you, everyone who stepped forward with answers or suggestions and just your perspective on things. So appreciate your input and the opportunity to be connected here together. Wishing you a magical rest of your day. And until we meet again. Bye.